Hi everybody, welcome to NYP. My name is Kelvin from the Diploma of Pharmaceutical Sciences. Today I'm going to bring you through on how to make a suppository by hand. So before I start, this is what you need, but just some important messages. Safety first, alright? So make sure that you're well protected. So gloves on. And then remember to protect your most important assets, your pair of eyes. So safety glasses on as well. Okay, so some basic equipment that we need. Your heat plate. So again, safety first, be careful. We are dealing with very hot steam as well. Your ingredients. So for today, we are going to be making copper sulfate suppositories, which I'll explain later. So ingredients here, some water and pestle, glass slabs, okay, stirring rods, and your beakers as well. Alright. So first of all, just a bit on the ingredients. Copper sulfate suppositories, the formulas are here. All you need is 2% copper sulfate, then your Terumakasih oil, which is also known as cocoa butter, 98%, which makes up the 100% of the formula. So say for example, if we are going to make 10 grams of suppository mix, you need 2 grams of 0.2 grams of your copper sulfate and then 9.8 grams of Terumakasih oil. Alright, so just very quickly, the suppositories itself has got no therapeutic use. Alright, so the reason we use copper sulfate is to actually test your skills so that we can see how well you make your suppositories. Okay, so with copper sulfate, as you can see here, is the blue powder. It's still relatively fine, but then to make nice and smooth suppositories, what we're going to do is to make it just decrease the particle size a little bit more. So first of all, you just get some of your copper sulfate and then grind it down. And you should be able to observe that there's a slight color change. Just then it was a lighter shade of blue. And once you actually reduce it in size, you can see that it's a lighter blue in color. Alright, so now we are getting a fine powder. Alright, it is at this point that you start weighing your ingredients. Always remember, point number 1 is to reduce your particle size, then weigh your ingredients for accuracy. The next ingredient we have is Terumakasih oil, or we call it cocoa butter. It comes in this sort of quite big chunk. So what we need to do first is actually to grind it down to finer particles, like about this fine here. See, this is sort of half grinded down. Still relatively big pieces. Now the reason is there's no particular reason other than to make sure that there's even heating later when we are going to melt it down. If you actually have big pieces, the big pieces will not melt that fast, whereas the smaller pieces will melt and create a situation where there's uneven heating. So this is what we do. We just quickly pound it down. Alright, there's no need to make sure that it's pulverized, but just in quite small particles rather than the big chunks again. Alright, now that we've prepared our ingredient, the next step is to weigh the ingredients out accurately. And then once you weigh it out, we are going to start making the suppository. So first step is to melt your Terumakasih oil inside the water bath. Do not use direct heat because you run the risk of overheating the suppository base, and it will not solidify again later. So when you're ready to start, just transfer all your Terumakasih oil inside a smaller beaker, and you're ready to heat it up. Immerse the smaller beaker into the hot water bath, and then just by stirring it gently, it will start to melt, forming a sort of oily mess. Alright, at this point of the experiment, just be very careful not to overheat it, because Terumakasih oil have this little bit of problem when it overheats, and it will not solidify later. Okay, so basically to control the heating, all you need to do is you just occasionally take it out of the water bath and continue stirring. The heat will be transferred into the smaller beaker, so you don't have to keep your small beaker inside the water bath all the time. So the end point of it is when the aroma oil is still it's liquid, but it's quite cloudy. As you can see, it's translucent kind of a liquid. All right, and do not heat it to the point where it becomes transparent, golden, like your cooking oil kind of appearance. That is a sign that the aroma oil has overheated. The next step of the preparation is to incorporate the the active ingredient, into the suppository base. So what we need to do is to put all the copper sulfate onto a glass slab. And then with a tiny amount of the aroma oil, you mix the ingredient in. Now this is quite an important step to make sure that, that if there's any big particles, you actually smoothen it out. So you keep mixing until you don't see any big particles inside. Alright, if need to, use a second spatula, scrape everything down again. Bring all your ingredients into the middle of this glass slab. And if you're happy with what you're getting, no big particles, then you scrape everything and mix it into the beaker of the aroma oil. Alright, just a word of caution, make sure that you got all your ingredients in. Your slab and your spatula should be relatively clean. And once you've got your active ingredient in there, you need to mix it in with your aroma oil. Alright, so with all your ingredients in here, what you need to do is gently stir it in. And you will see that your aroma oil will turn cloudy and blue as well. Making sure that the crystals, the copper sulfate crystals, is well suspended inside the aroma oil. Now, this is not, what we need to do is to let it solidify just slightly, to let it form a sticky mixture. Once that has happened, then you start to pour inside the suppository molds to avoid settling of the copper sulfate inside the suppository molds, which will give you a suppository with two colors, and that's not very good. So now we need to pour the suppositories. While gently stirring, you just pour the suppository in, filling up the mold, and remember to overfill it. Overfill the suppository molds. And once you have filled all your suppository molds, leave it inside the fridge to solidify. So the next step is to trim off the suppositories to get it into a nice flat suppository at the end. So what you need to do is you just use a spatula and gently scrape the top of it. Scrape off the excess. Alright. So it's actually a flat top, flat at the top here, and discarding the rest of your suppository mixture. Now once you trim your suppositories, they are ready to be taken out of the mold. Notice that I've actually taken out my gloves because the experiment has finished. So what you need to do is you cut them individually, and then you pull the end, taking out the suppository like that. So this is a completed suppositories. Try not to handle it too much because your body heat will start to melt the suppository. Alright, so just keep going and peel all your suppositories off. And that's it. You have your blue flying bullets.